We all like to think that God has a plan for our lives, and that would be correct thinking. He does have a plan for your life, for my life, for everybody's life. We like to quote verse from Jeremiah where God says, "I know the plans that I have for you. Plans for good and not for evil. Plans for peace." We like that. And the plan that God has for everybody's life is truly wonderful. He ultimately has the best in mind for us. But God doesn't look at things the way that we do. God looks at things from an eternal perspective. And sometimes in order to accomplish his eternal purpose, his plans for us may not be what we want them to be. They may not be what we think of as good. Let me explain. God had a prophet come to David and anoint him and tell him that he was going to become the king of Israel, that he was going to replace Saul. And that sounds great. That sounds glorious. What he didn't tell David is that he would spend years running and hiding from Saul, living in caves. What he didn't tell David is that after David was king, that his own son Absalom would try to overthrow him. Being king was glorious and wonderful. Some of the things that came with it were not. God had a glorious and wonderful plan for Stephen. That included being the first Christian martyr, being stoned. God had a glorious and wonderful plan for the Apostle Paul. That included being thrown in prison on multiple occasions, being beaten on multiple occasions, being stoned and taken outside the city and left as a dead body, being shipwrecked, being bitten by a serpent, being hungry. But I can't think of anyone that was used more gloriously in the kingdom of God than the Apostle Paul. So, yes, God has a glorious and wonderful plan for you, for your life. But it's his plan. It's not your plan. God's plan for my life is not my plan. My life has not gone the way I wanted it to. But I think it's been good, and I think he's taken me in the direction that I needed to go in spite of what I wanted. And it is a good plan. It is a glorious plan. I will reign and rule with him for eternity. And that's cool. In fact, I don't think it gets any cooler than that. But I've come to learn that his glorious plan, his wonderful plan for my life, has included some pretty horrific events. So, when you're thinking about your life, and you're thinking about what God is doing with your life, try to think about it from his perspective and realize that everything that he is doing with your life is glorious and is wonderful. But from your perspective, from the way that you think, it may sometimes look like he's forgotten you. It may sometimes look like he's blessed others far more than you. And it may not be what you want it to be. But is it what he wants it to be? Something to think about.